Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, we're finally here. Spring training is underway. Games are actually being played after waiting this whole off season with all the judge drama and all that stuff. And of course, all these new rules are being enacted. And actually, it's starting to see them already. And they're actually enforcing, which I'm kind of surprised. I just figured they're kind of, we'll write these rules, actually enforce them. But there have been situations, especially with the pitch clock, that the umpires have said, hey, you've been taking too long for a pitch and award the batter a ball there. So that's all in the way. We've kind of seen this all for the first time. But of course, it's good to see Yankee baseball back. Now, we didn't get into too much of this in the previous episodes, but the Yankees did invite their second top prospect Jason Dominguez to the Major League camp. Just give him a fresh look at some Major League talent there for the first time to see how he would fare. Now again, a young guy, he just turned 20 years old, but good sign already in his first game, hitting a home run there in his second at bat. So good sign there for underway. Now, not a situation where I would expect Jason Dominguez to really have a shot to be with the Major League team starting in April. I think it's just more just to get him out there, get him some seasoning, see how he would face against some Major League quality pitching. So far so good for him. For the Yankees, a little injury news there. Of course, we know Frankie Montas got just before the spring training started, got the news that he would need surgery. Went underway, so he's going to be out for a while now. Initially, they thought he might even miss the whole season. Turns out they don't have to mess with the rotated cuff. They just kind of had to scrape around there a little bit, so he's going to be shut down for 12 weeks if he can start throwing again. But again, a situation in him where you're not even thinking about him until maybe August or September. But that trade is looking terrible because he gave the Yankees nothing last season, and you kind of have to wonder with Brian Cashman, how did you miss this on the physical? Because clearly he was hurt last season when he was here. It was not effective. You had the entire winter to find out maybe there's something wrong with him, and then when he comes here to spring training, realizes, we have to give the guy surgery. Kind of wasted 5 months, but nevertheless, so he's gone there. But not really a big issue because you have Domingo Germán there for the fifth spot, and of course you have someone like Clark Schmidt always in the work there, so that self will work it out. So we're here in spring training, so to help me with that in this episode, got a guest. Her name is Sarah. Now, she's a co-host of Baseball Fever Media. It's a podcast with her partner, Julia. Julia's not here, but Sarah is here. Big Yankee fan, so we'll cover all this. Hey, Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you, James?
Doing good. So now you and your partner, Julia, your co-host of the podcast, Baseball Fever Media. Now, people can follow you on Instagram at Baseball Fever Media, pretty easy. There's a link to the podcast, and again, they can check out your site and all the other stuff. So I appreciate you, Sarah, coming in. It's pleasure speaking with you.
You too, James.
So maybe just give me a little background about maybe you and Julia, just kind of where you met, how long you known each other, and why you decided to start the podcast.
So originally it was her podcast, and she ran it herself. And she had guests come on, and it was more of a regular thing that she did before she started her softball in college. And we actually met through Twitter in a Yankees, club media page. And she told me about herself. So then we kind of collaborated, and she said, hey, listen, do you want to be on an episode of the podcast? And I said, yeah, sure. Why not? She saw I was really informative when it came to Yankees baseball. So it went from there, and we did a couple episodes together. And then she said, listen, I need to make you a co-host because you clearly know what you're talking about. You do know some of your statistics. I know on my end, I can always do the work. You can always back me up if I make something, a mistake. And then ever since then, we've met at a couple Yankee games. She lives in upstate New York. I'm here in New Jersey. So it's kind of a commute for the both of us. Yankee Stadium's kind of our meeting point. So if you follow her on her social media accounts, I'm not sure the platform names, but you can see her, I'm in a couple photos. So that's how it started.
Oh, interesting. I checked it before. I see a bunch of games and some road games as well. It's pretty cool. Camden Yards. It's always a good spot.
Yeah. I think she went with her family to a couple of those. Yeah.
And just how about yourself? What was your interest in baseball? Is it something as a kid, or is it something that you just developed over time?
Actually, as a kid. So I was born a Yankee fan, but when I was 5 years old, I went to my first game, and Ramiro Mendoza signed a baseball for me. So I have that somewhere in my house. And then ever since then, I've kind of stuck with the team because I think it was just more of a homegrown, like most players are through the minor leagues if they are not traded in. But I kind of felt like an outsider in a way because most of my friends weren't really into baseball, and I was kind of trying to find my niche. So I was in sports when I was a kid, and baseball was one of them. And then the Yankee fandom kind of grew from there. So
So interesting. And like how many games you yourself or with Julie attend a year?
So I usually go with my family because we're season ticket holders. Julia usually goes with hers because she meets it on her end. So she doesn't go regularly like I do because she's still in college. So I think her college season ends in May. So she'll start going to games maybe like late May into early June. Me, we go normally like every other Friday or every Friday game because it's a Friday package for spring for at least for the season. So I actually have been going to games for a really long time.
Yeah, the first year at the new stadium, well, we call it the new stadium now. It's been almost 10 years, but yeah, I think I was at Section 315. We had the Friday
Yeah.
night package, and then years later moved to 420, Section 420. There you go. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't do the season tickets anymore, but I kind of grab a seat on StubHub there. But it's pretty cool that you still, season ticket holder after all these years, because a lot of people just drop off.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. It's either too expensive or something's going on where they can't keep up with the tickets. But we've actually had it for a long time. I feel like we've had it honestly longer than most. But I've gone to a couple stadiums prior to that, at least for other teams, like on the East Coast. But my favorite's probably the old Yankee Stadium because I just like the aura of it and the fact that it gives off a good history.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I'd hate the new stadium. I don't really hate it as much as I thought it would, but yeah, I think it lost a little bit something with the old Yankee stadium, just the way all the fans would hang over the opposing players. I think it was an intimidation factor, which the new Yankees team doesn't really have. Everyone's kind of like back a little bit, but I actually like the new stadium. It's not that bad. It grew on me. It took a little bit, but yeah, I didn't hate it as
Yeah,
much as I thought I would.
that's true. That's true. That was me too. I think like the old aura of the stadium itself, like the old one, it kind of gave off like a historic feel. I feel like the new one, they tried to bring in the old history to the new,
Yeah.
but it was kind of a transition. I can understand that.
Yeah, and the only really problem I had with the old stadium was just cramped, like especially when you have to like exit, you had to go down like the ramps if you were in the upper deck. It took like a half hour to get out.
Yes.
That was just
Yes.
tedious. Now you get some good arguments and fights there, so that was kind of interesting. But still, it took forever to get out of there. So I just like the
Mm,
elevators now. You're out in like less than a minute.
yeah. Yeah. And you don't have to go down like the railings or like the extra exits on the back. I remember the extra exits on the back end where it looked like it didn't even look like Yankee Stadium. It looked like something totally different.
All right, so we reached spring training finally here. I guess we've only had a handful of games, so yeah, obviously not dissecting now, but obviously the new rules are kicking in. I'm shocked so far they have been enforcing the pitch clock most of all. So, just what's your initial thought of some of the new rules? The whole I guess the engagement with the pitcher that's an interesting one. I mean, what's your initial thoughts of these so far?
To be honest, I do like the bigger bases because I feel like it will cause less injuries and it will cause less of a collision between the base runners and the actual players on the base. So I think in the base path seems to be a little bit longer. So when the batter just goes sliding in, it's not like he's sliding off the base to cause another injury. So I think they probably did that prior to how many injuries, players have had on the base paths and at least the position players too. With the pitch clock, I feel like obviously it speeds up the game. Everyone's going to get used to it. I feel like it's kind of an if and or a but with some players because some players like to take their time going up to the plate, but when they realize I have however many minutes to get myself together before, strike one happens, I feel like it's going to get taken used to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so I'm still on the side of I don't like it right now. I mean, again, I could be bored over. I initially didn't like the Ghost Runner from like a season or
Yeah.
two ago, but it grew on me. Only problem like baseball had made it unique from other sports is that there's no time. Like basketball, there's a time. Football is
Right.
time. All the other sports, but baseball is like where you could freeze the moment, and you're gonna kind of lose that a little bit. Which, I can understand trying to get through a regular season game in May, but like in October, and just the intensity is there when the pitcher holds the ball. I think that's the part I don't like, but I think
Yeah.
Aaron Judge actually, he had a quote I read yesterday. He was like it's a basketball saying back in the day with basketball when there was no shot clock, players just could run around for circles forever. Now it
Yeah.
forces them to shoot, and it just became a part of the game. Now you feel natural, but so I think it'll grow on me. So I don't really love it right now, but I think it will grow on me over time.
It's going to take like a couple months getting used to. So when the pitchers and like the catchers try to get on the same page, because I know there's a couple teams who are going to take longer to adjust to it, but I feel like the Yankees are going to be okay with it.
And as for the bigger bases, I think also it helps at first base where you have a lot of like, bang bang
Yeah.
plays at first, and the runners coming in there, and so many first basemen get their like wrists and their hands like jammed by a runner coming in. So I
Yeah.
think it should also save Something, and it's actually, speaking of Aaron Judge, someone mentioned funny with the bigger bases. He's like 6'7", so if he wants to
Yes.
slide in now and hands first, it's gonna be easier for him to grab a bag. So this guy, the tall guys like that.
Yeah, yeah, with him and Stanton, I feel like because they usually just slide feet first, or sometimes if it's head first, if it's rushed. But now I feel like there's more room, so they're like on the outer side of the base, and then the position player would be on the inner side to at least try to position the ball to where they could get the out, or at least whatever
Yeah.
happens.
The only confused I think is gonna be during the scene is like keeping track of all the engagements with the pitchers. Like, did he step
Yeah.
off? Did he throw over? That. In fact, the umpires. I know umpires are going to miss it. Like, someone's going to violate the rule. The umpire's probably not going to catch it because they're still learning this stuff. So I think that's
Right.
the only one where it's still going to that might actually make the game longer when they're trying to huddle decide how many times did he throw over. I'm not sure. Hey Bob, what do you know about that? Blah blah blah.
Yes, that's what it is. And I feel like it's trying to like keep up with what the umpire's saying or what the position players are saying, because there could be a lot of stuff going on in the infield that the outfielders really don't have control of. So it's more of like what the umpire sees, rather than, let's say that the pitcher had a balk or something happened. But at the same time, it's like, what can you do?
Yeah. And I think also that's why another one of the new rules is going to be the umpire is going to have microphones. So it's like, hey, instead of huddling, they might go, hey, did you see that? No, okay, fine. It's like, so I think it's quick messaging. So that might be the way to offset any time wasted deciding that.
Yeah.
So Mr. Judge again, discussing him. So you as a Yankee fan, were you nervous that he wasn't coming back? Because it looked like maybe the Giants were going to steal him, like late in the game there.
Yeah, I was kind of nervous. To be honest, my friend was freaking out. She texted me and she was like, "Did you see the update on Judge?" I said, "Oh God, no. What's the update?" So then a couple of minutes later is when John Heyman came out with it, because I got the delay on my phone because I just updated my phone. And everyone got the update before I did. So I was like freaking out. I was like, "What the heck is this update?" So of course I went on Twitter and I looked at it and I was like, "Oh my God." But then I took like a quick look and I was like, "Okay, this is not good. Like, where's he going? Like, where's the money?" And then I was sitting there thinking, like, Arson Judge. What? I was like, is there a typo? So then I saw Heyman took it down and then put it up. He's like, "My apologies." I was like, "Good job, dude. Good job."
It was bad. So, and then that was obviously that was more like I think Hal getting involved than really Brian Cashman. Now, I mean, are you a Cashman person? I know a lot of, especially after the Houston series, a lot of people want both him and Boone out. I mean, I was happy; it was okay coming back. But what do you feel about Cashman getting a 4-year deal in the offseason?
To be honest, I was an if and or a but with him, like most, because I just feel like he could have some good moments, and then there's some where you're like, "What are you doing, Brian? Like, why are we getting rid of this person?" Like, I wanted to go after him for the Montgomery trade because I felt like Montgomery was totally thrown underneath the bus. Nobody knew what was going on, other than now we're just getting a position player who had plantar fasciitis, and we don't know when he's going to play. So it's like, okay, what are we doing? Because I believe it was 2 weeks after the Subway Series in Citi Field when he was traded. So the last game I saw him in was the Subway Series game at Citi Fields, and he didn't do too well. And I was like, oh God, now the trade rumors are going to come out saying he might be traded here. And I was hearing a little bit about it, and I said, nah, that can't be. And then I go and turn on the Yankee game at 6:30, and they're like, Montgomery was traded to the Cardinals. I was like, what? I'm like, nobody knew. Nobody gave us an update. They didn't know what was going on until I was like, okay, who are we getting? Another minor leaguer? Like, we don't need another minor league guy when we have a lot of the homegrown ones, or at least the ones that were traded in the beginning of the season. But then when I heard Harrison Bader and he had the injury, I said, okay, maybe after the injury, we can get used to him. And then I guess like it blew over. So.
Yeah, and then it helped that Montgomery started 4-0 with the Cardinals with the like ERA of like 1. But I think in the long run, that's going to be a pretty good deal for the Yankees. Because I like Bader. He was like the only one that like showed up during the playoffs. So you have a full season him. Hopefully, again, the plantar fasciitis doesn't crop up again. I like him. I like him leading off, stealing bases and just giving his team some energy because his team's kind of lacking that. So in the long run, it'd be a good deal. But I think with Cashman, unless he wins another ring or two, I think this is his last deal. Like I think Hal's like, all right, get this 4-year deal, and I think after even Cashman himself might walk away because if you go like since 2009 without winning World Series, I mean, how can you take a paycheck again?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, okay, what are you going to do after 4 years? Obviously, the guy's going to retire because most GMs would, but at the same time, it's like, a lot of people are speculating, oh, Jeter would replace him. And I was like, because Jeter now got the deal with Fox. So now it's like, what's going on? Because everyone thought that Jeter was going to take over now and they would just get rid of Cashman. But I said, no, maybe they'll keep him a little longer and see what he does, or at least get another World Series out of him. Because if it's been that long since 2009, there's got to be some front office issue.
Yeah, and for some reason, I just don't think the Yankees would want to bring in Jeter just because, like, it's a job where you, like, as a, they always say, you get hired to get fired. And I just think since Jeter's like the, the golden boy for the Yankees, I don't think they would put him in that position. But one of the questions I did want to ask you, now that Aaron Judge is the captain, I mean, is it too soon to call Judge the captain? I mean, when we say the captain, we mean Jeter, but now they're going to be kind of referring to that Judge. So maybe we should call Judge the general. I don't know. What do you feel about that?
I would start as the pre-captain and see how he does within one season. Then I'll give him the captain title like later on, because I want to see how he can do a whole season when everyone now is physically calling him the captain, even if that really doesn't change much, because you're still being yourself, but you kind of have a bigger role where people are going to be like, hey, captain, how's it going? He just wants to be just regular Aaron himself. So I think it's more of, we'll see how he does in one season and then build from there.
Yeah, now this upcoming season I think is going to be very important for Garrett Cole. 2022 wasn't really a good season for his standards. Gave up a lot of home runs. He had those games where he just got like annihilated in the first two innings. Like we didn't see that with him in the first couple of seasons in pinstripes. Now they say maybe it's because the whole sport substance on the ball and his spin rate wasn't there and all that stuff. But what's your thoughts on Garrett Cole?
I think he just needs to stop with the home run ball. I think that's kind of where his weakness is. And I noticed a couple games last season where he was getting very like fidgety and he wasn't really focusing as much, or he felt like he was being rushed. I feel like he isn't going to have a problem with pitch clock. He's the one pitcher besides Rodon that I know won't have an issue. The others, they might have to build into it. But with him, I feel like he's going to be okay. I think he just needed to find where his ground was. And of course, every pitcher is going to get the home run ball regardless of who they're playing. But he just needs to limit that down and realize, listen, I know who I am. I need to get back to that.
Yeah, because I mean, you've had a couple of games like where he gave like 3 consecutive home runs and like to 3 batters like this. We never saw that before with Cole, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
There was probably an adjustment period. He probably again was using some sort of grip substance because you can't argue with the fact that I had those text messages with him from like years ago when he was at Houston. So he probably needs to get adjusted with that. And I think he did and look, for the most part, I think he did his job in the postseason. He got the 2 wins against Cleveland, especially the game 4, which he definitely needed. Houston, I'm not gonna blame him on that one too much. It wasn't really his fault. Just the team got shut out 5-0. But I think he will have a much better season than he did in 2022.
Oh yeah, definitely. He'll build eventually. I think I see him doing better this season than definitely last season.
And I think it also helps to having Rendon there. I think we should get a full season of Severino. Takes the pressure off him. Nestor should be Nestor. The Frankie Montas thing, I mean, it's a fifth starter anyway. I mean, I wasn't going to put much stock in him, but yeah, I think having Severino and of course Rendon for a full season takes the pressure off Cole. Maybe not even looking at Cole and just he could just have maybe a 20-win season.
That's true. I mean, having Rodon there at least is easy. It takes the pressure off of Cole because now it's like, oh, now I got to win every 5 days, or I got to win at however many starts. And I got to see, like, and now I have to pick up the whole bullpen and the whole pitching staff. But now that you have like another guy who's there, who's able to pick up the team when you can't, is a good thing.
Yeah, so hopefully we get back to the old days when we have like Cone, El Duque, David Wells, get 4 guys out there that any of them could be the ace. So hopefully that's played.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the bullpen and Yankees got away with it in the playoffs. They were able to squeak by with like Loizaga and Peralta and like a half Clay Holmes. Yes. But obviously we need Clay Holmes to be the Clay Holmes he was the first half of 2022, as well as Michael King, who I think was like the best setup man in baseball before he went down with the surgery. So do you think those two could come back, or you think the Yankees, is going to have to make some move at some point to get someone in more arms in the bullpen?
I think they should be okay. At least if we can get the old Clay Holmes back, that would be amazing. I think it was more of the pressure getting to him and him realizing, oh, I got to throw a shutout. I got to close out these games because Chapman, we can rely on him. It was more of, oh, he's walking 6 batters an inning. That's not good. So then we need to realize who's going to come in. Now that Loizaga might close, if Holmes doesn't close, that way it takes the pressure off of Clay Holmes and you can have, Michael King or somebody come in and say, oh, I'll close it out. I'll be fine.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. I think Holmes got hurt the second, in the midway, he was pitching hurt the second half because he wasn't. I mean, the first half of the season, you got like a microscopic ERA, and even if you take when Cashman first got him from Pittsburgh, the second half of 2021, he was good. So like,
Yeah.
there's a long body of work. That this is a good guy. So I just think the fact that in the playoffs, which is amazing, Game 3 in the divisional series, that Boone went to Clark Schmidt instead of him because I didn't want to pitch him 2 days in a row. I mean, that speaks volumes. This is the playoffs, and he couldn't go. So Clay Holmes is definitely hurt. So I think he does come back. And again, it'll just be gravy if Kane can return to his form last season, have those two guys at the back end of the bullpen. And in fact, we don't have Chapman anymore blowing games. That in itself, by him not even being here, that's like a victory.
Oh, trust me, it was. I think everybody pretty much threw a hit parade saying, oh, he's finally gone. Thank God. But he was good. Don't get me wrong when we had him. But at the same, it was just like he lost it. I don't know what was going on with him. The injury bug hit him multiple times. And then the whole tattoo situation kind of ruined it towards the end of last season when we physically needed him. So now I feel like, listen, Kansas City, you can have him figure it out. I don't know. Trade him off somewhere if you need to. But thank God he's out of our hands because we just can't deal with that nonsense anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you because I did an audio. Yeah, I have an audio podcast version of the show, and I kind of did on Chapman. And I said mostly good stuff from him. It's just the past 2 seasons, he just I don't know. He lost. It seemed like he only lost a mile or two off the fastball. But if you could throw 99, you could still be able to. But he was never able to like readjust, and then he's just out there sweating and throwing these little sliders and off-speed pitches that terrible. And just at that point, it just became predictable.
Yeah. I kind of knew he was on his way out too, and I was like, I don't think. And then of course, Boone gave him the boot, saying, "Listen, we don't need you." That was ridiculous.
Just gave up on the team. Now, 2 other Yankees that fans kind of like blame for recent troubles. One will be Aaron Hicks, and of course Josh Donaldson. So Hicks, I mean, is there anything there that he could salvage for the season, or where do you think he's going to end up?
He honestly, it's stressful having to watch him because I feel like his defense can improve if he wanted to improve. But his batting, he just needs to just stay in the box. He needs to stop stepping out when he shouldn't be, and he needs to stop waving at balls off the plate. So I feel like when he stops doing that and realizing where the ball's being thrown, he'll be fine. I feel like he just needs to just have tunnel vision and block everything out because I felt like he totally lost that. And then he was swinging at anything near the plate. So with him, I want to see how he does the first couple weeks of the season. That will determine like what he's going to do the rest of the season. And we'll see, like, it really depends on who's going to play where. But with Donaldson, I feel like it's the same thing with Hicks. Stop swinging off the plate. Stop swinging at like whatever's in the air because I felt like most of them were pop-up balls. They weren't really much like, I'm going to give you strike 3 down the plate. There was pitches to hit. They just were not making the utmost contact they should have. Yeah,
I think this could be an opportunity for Hicks. I think, because a lot of other focus on some of the other players. So if he could just stay healthy and kind of, if they bat him down like 8th or 9th position with like no pressure, again, he's had some good moments with the Yankees. Like he usually has, high base percentage. He has some home run pop, switch hitter. So there's some things there you like. It's just obviously he just can never stay healthy. Now I don't know if his body will ever get back because he's had so many surgeries and stuff. But I'm just going to be optimistic. But maybe he just have a low key season. He's probably going to platoon a lot with Cabrera. So you're not going to ask him to take on a workload. And again, if you get a full healthy season at him, I think he could be like a 20 home run guy.
Yeah, he can if he puts his mind to it. And I feel like taking the load off of him, like Rodon would take the load off of Cole, I think it would be pretty much better because you'd have Cabrera out there where if you hopefully they use Florial before they run out of his sending up and sending down. So I think it's pretty much you have to work with what you have.
Yeah. And Donaldson, I mean, to me, as long as like DJ's healthy and like he hasn't been the past couple of seasons, you could always have a situation where like DJ could play third base and just have Glaber at second, and of course, and then Donaldson. I mean, he only had this is like last year on this contract, so you could almost trade him, if or just kind of cut him, obviously to say goodbye because I think he has an option for next year, but there's no way the Yankees are picking that up. But I think the point is as long as they have DJ healthy as an option at third base, and I think the Yankees are good.
Yeah, they need to just keep DJ healthy because then that means Donaldson pretty much does get the boot if he doesn't improve on where he should have.
All right. Now, of course, there were a lot of big names, a lot of big contracts from this offseason, which is ridiculous. Was there anyone like that you wish the Yankees would have kicked the tires on, they didn't, or was there a trade out there? Or was there a player that you wish the Yankees would have grabbed?
To be honest, I really, really wish they would have gotten Dansby Swanson. I know he was not really interested in staying with the American League, or trying to get into the American League. Thankfully, the Cubs picked him up because the Cubs did need a shortstop, and they were trying to get back on the wagon at least. Benintendi, I feel like they should have kept. I really think they should have kept Benintendi because it would have worked, but it was actually during the time of, are we going to keep Judge? Is Judge going to go to the Giants? What are we going to do? So I feel like that conflicted with trying to keep Benintendi. So I think those are the two.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to Cashman. He has his good moments and bad moments. That was a great pickup. I mean, gave up relatively nothing. You get a player hitting, 320 at the time. Not much home run, but a good contact hitter. And then, of course, a couple of weeks it goes down with the wrist injury. It's just bad luck for the Yankee team.
Right. It was. And he's a good player. I'm not going to lie. Benintendi's a great player. And I know the White Sox are going to do well with him. But at the same time, it's like you kind of could have kept him, but we kind of just had Judge in our peripheral tunnel vision, not really forgetting about everybody else. But it was more of, no, we need to lock Judge down before we can make any other moves. I think that was the only problem.
And another interesting season, I think, is going to be for Gleyber Torres. I think he had an okay 2022. It kind of started off good, a little disappointment, but you think he's in the long-term Yankee plans, or this kind of like once his contract's up, they'll let him walk and try to find an opportunity for like Peraza or Cabrera to kind of take his place?
I feel like he's okay for now. I want to see what he does for a full season again. Try to see where he's the type of person that I feel like just changes his swing based on his mood. Because I noticed in 2019, he was very off the plate consistent, where he got all those home runs and he was able to have his head in there. But I felt like the last couple seasons, it was more of he's got the up and down all the time. It's more of you have to stay in the box a little bit longer and stop swinging at stuff off the plate, which causes less pop-ups. Or there's more of I'm going to stay in the cage all the time. I'm going to figure out what swing works for me and I'm going to stay with it. I felt like he was just feeding off of what everyone else was saying about him rather than I'm Gleyber Torres. I need to have my own swing, not what someone else is telling me.
I like that he bounced back a little bit last season, but I don't think he's going to be in the long-term Yankee plans unless he has a great season. Because, what is he really? He's like a 250 hitter. Maybe he's like 15, 20 home runs. Like, well, you can probably get that from somewhere else. So unless he has a great season, I think this might be, the beginning of the end for Gleyber Torres, unfortunately. Sarah, I appreciate you getting this time. Send my regards to Julia. Maybe we'll get her next time. We have a full season ahead of us. Yes. Again, it's Baseball Fever Media. People can follow you on Instagram at Baseball Fever Media. And again, check out the podcast and your stuff. And again, very insightful. And of course, more importantly, it's very awesome that you're a Yankee fan.
Yes. Thank you, James.